You're listening to the Oklahoma Onstage podcast, where we sit down with people from the bustling theater scene in the great state of Oklahoma. We hope you enjoy your time with us. If you do, please share the podcast with those you know. If you'd like to know more about who we are and what we do, visit us on Facebook or Instagram, or go to our website, oklahomaonstage.org. Now hang on to your hat. We're starting another episode right now.
Welcome back, everybody, to Oklahoma On Stage as we continue our series on Oklahoma theater educators. This has been a great series for me. I've gotten to meet a lot of people and to see how we're building the next generation. So today's guest is one of those rare theater educators who doesn't just teach the craft, he builds an entire ecosystem where young artists discover who they are. He has spent more than a decade shaping student-centered theater programs across Oklahoma, from designing a full performing arts curriculum at Edmond Fine Arts Institute to now leading the drama, tech, and music theater programs at Classen SAS Middle School. He's a director with a designer's eye, an actor with an educator's heart, and a leader who believes the rehearsal room should be a place where every student feels seen, valued, and capable of bold creativity. If you've ever wondered what it takes to grow confident, collaborative young performers, or how a middle school theater program becomes a true artistic home, this is an episode you're going to want to stick around for more. Ladies and gentlemen, Oklahoma Onstage family, please join me in welcoming Brent Pederson to the podcast. Welcome, Brent.
Thanks for having me.
So, we are sitting here in the auditorium of the Classen SAS Middle School. I guess you call it the Fine Arts program, because it's a little more than just drama.
Yeah.
So this is, we were kind of talking about it before we started. This is something pretty impressive, especially for a middle school.
Yeah. So our school is a little different. It is still part of Oklahoma City Public Schools, but it's considered a magnet school. So it's an application school, but it's open to everyone else in the district, outside of the district. But all of these kids, when they come here, they are applying to be a major. So they are a dance major, a guitar major, a piano major, a drama major, any sort of instrument basic band major. There's also an IB major, so it's more of the International Baccalaureate program, so a more academic side. So they are coming with a purpose. It's not just a school they're districted in, but something that they're more passionate about or interested in and learning more about. It's almost like a college prep school.
That's what it sounds like. So, for folks who may not know you yet, what's the headline version of who you are and what you do?
I am a drama teacher that does pretty much everything. If anyone's sort of worked in education, you know that a drama teacher is not just the teacher, but they sort of do all the hats. You work in a community theater, you've got a costumer, you've got a set designer, you've got props person, but it's a full-time job of directing, but also working with the costumes, working with the sets, sort of learning every side of the craft and doing everything on top of just running a whole program.
Wow. So let's rewind just a little bit on your story. What first pulled you into theater?
I grew up in a musical family. We listened to music a lot. I have always loved the flair for the over the top. My parents always say that when I was younger, I mean, this was back when like Lion King was out in the theaters, and they said I sat on the edge of the seat, paid attention to the movie the entire time. One of my other favorites was Charlotte's Web. So I multiple times would say, I want to watch Wilbur. Let's watch Wilbur. Let's watch Wilbur. So um, I've always loved the theatrics, the dramatics. I did choir when I was younger. And then one of our choir teachers recommended me for a local theater. I auditioned for a theater, was a dwarf in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in about 5th grade. Was not a paying gig, but it was a dinner theater with mac and cheese, jello, and chicken nuggets. And as a 5th grader, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, that we didn't get paid, but we got paid in food. So
Why not?
dinner theater, got fed every night. And then just from there, did lots of theater through that and just enjoyed the community.
Very cool. Very cool. So where did you go to high school?
I went to high school in Andover, Kansas. Most people don't know that. I usually say I'm from Wichita because Wichita is more well known, but I'd basically say Andover is like Edmond is to Oklahoma City.
So were you involved in theater there?
I was. As a male, you're usually a hot commodity in theater, and then one that's thoroughly involved. I really enjoyed the program. I did basically every drama class I could take, did every show I could take, because we were one of the top drama programs in the state. We went to Thespian Festival. We had lots of involvement with that. My sister was involved. She did the backstage side. I did the onstage side. So we've been in theater since we were little and just thoroughly enjoyed it. Did lots of productions.
Very cool. So then you graduated high school, you came to Oklahoma to go to college.
Yes.
You went to Oklahoma City University.
Oklahoma Christian.
Oh, Christian University.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you earned a BFA in interior design.
Yes.
What does that entail?
So as you are in high school, you have all your ideas of what you want to do for a major. I thought I wanted to go to school for drama. When your parents are paying for college or they have a say in it, I have 2 engineering parents, one's an accountant, one's an engineer, but they're very technically minded, looking at I'm the artistic one, they'll look at the other side. So looking at a degree for that, I went for interior design, and my thought was I enjoyed the set design process, but I don't enjoy spending so many hours in set design and then watching it go down in less than like 30 minutes. So interior design was a more substantial process where it would be more long lasting, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay. Very cool. So how did looking at design, how did that shape your artistic eye, if you will, and eventually your directing style?
I really love the color palettes, like I was saying earlier about just the theatrics of everything. So the theatrics that sort of apply to design, the textures, the colors, the different palettes that apply to different time periods. It's nice to sort of, like, for instance, we're doing Mary Poppins right now. It's all set in Victorian era. So I love just researching the interiors of a Victorian house or looking at all the wallpapers and the finishes and everything that's put in there. And that's one of the elements that I just really love because it needs to be a cohesive element. And so having that interior design background is sort of a cool thing to do for interior design. I am not a structural builder, but I can make it look real pretty. So that type of just making it immersed in that world through the interior design lens.
It's very cool. So having that design aspect of seeing things that way and then having a space like this, do you try to make your sets as detailed as possible?
So it is very interesting. So before I was here, I was in a small 80-person theater where if you've ever worked in a smaller theater, every detail is seen up close. I mean, you have to have every detail on every wall, every prop, everything like that. It's been a very interesting learning curve because I have to sit about the middle of the house and say, okay, I know I'm very OCD, ADD about certain things, but I'm like, is this little detail going to be noticed by the audience, or is it something that I'm just spending all that attention to? I mean, I've had something, for instance, with costuming. I tell my kids, if you have black socks, I don't want to see the Nike swoosh on them because that takes me out of the world of everything. So there is an attention to detail, but there is times where I'm like, I got to pull back a little bit. So it's not so serious if they have a Nike swoosh in such a big space, because not everyone's going to see that Nike swoosh. I will, but
Yeah.
not everyone will.
Well, with space like this, it's real easy to go overboard.
Yeah.
So, when did you realize that education, not just performance, was going to be the major part of your career?
When I was in college, you're a college kid, you're trying to make money, wherever you can. I started working at a dance studio, Dance Unlimited, with Jonathan Beck Reed and Amy Reynolds Reed, and he has Spotlight Academy with that. And I started working the after school programs and working shows with that. I'd always worked with kids. I've grown up in church, working vacation Bible schools and things like that. So just working with kids has always been an interesting element. But seeing how you can basically take any kid and make them a theater kid. Not everyone comes from the same background, but putting in the work and the effort with a kid and just seeing that moment when it clicks with them and there's just a switch that goes off. That is an element that I just really enjoyed. I worked with Jonathan and Amy at Dance Unlimited, moved on to the Edmond Fine Arts, established a performing arts program there, and just sort of built a program from the ground up. And what's so interesting is this community has so many different opportunities for kids, but it's like you always think, oh, I'm just another opportunity. But some of these opportunities are for kids that wouldn't have this opportunity. And I think that's my biggest thing, is trying to find opportunities for kids that think it's not for them, or something that is not in their wheelhouse, or financially something that they can do. So just making it accessible and something that all kids are able to do and find their sort of niche group of people.
That's very, very cool. So, we're going to shift over to your process of building things, talking about building the program up in Edmond at the Edmond Fine Arts Institute. What did you learn from that experience that still shapes your teaching today?
I think one of the things that is really big, it was a nonprofit, so obviously everything is not for profit. There is a lot of asks. There's a lot of ask in everything. You're trying to build a program with little to nothing, which is very applicable in education as well, because even the most renowned programs are still relied on donors or sponsors or anything like that. So I think from the nonprofit background, that sort of translated great into education, because we are still a public school, but we are a Title I school. So there are kids that things are not accessible, but I don't want any sort of finances to be a barrier for kids. So I think that background of the nonprofit world was a good translation to here.
Very cool. I love that. I love it. So, going into the Edmond program, obviously you had a vision for what you wanted to see in that program. So, what was the vision that you brought to the Institute, and what were some of the challenges to that vision?
They did have a theater program. It was a very small program. Like I said, the theater sat about 80 at the time. Old school park hand lights. You turned all of them on and it would flip a breaker in the building. Like it was, I mean, each of those are 1,000 watts a piece. Like we were just talking about, smaller spaces with those hot lights, they start heating up real quick. So sort of antiquated technology, trying to learn all of that. But again, with no money to go buy all the LEDs and get everything and just get your name out there, because you're competing against all of these other groups, and just sort of what makes you different, what makes you special. So building that up, but also I think a big part of theater is the community. So just having that core community of kids that knew they didn't really care what the show was. They were just wanting to do a show. So you create that core friend group that no matter what the show is happening, they're going to be there. So they get to the point where they trust you, the parents trust you, and they just want to be there and be in that space, so much so that you're ready to go home at the end of the day. But they're like, oh, I told my parents not to come for another 2 hours. And you're like, I have things to work on. So I guess you guys can hang out here. But just making it their second home, or for some of them, their home.
Yeah, that trust is very important. So what is your core philosophy when it comes to working with young performers?
As someone who's worked with theater people, I think the most important element, and this sounds very weird to say, is not to be the best performer in the room, but be the best person in the room. I want them to be good people first and then good performers second, because everyone has worked with that person who is a phenomenal performer on stage, but then not the nicest person backstage. So I just want them to lead with kindness, because, I mean, there's also a thing I've told them multiple times. It's not the first time you get cast somewhere, but the second time you get cast somewhere. So especially when they're in their school walls, they go out to other theaters. I'm like, be the kind person. Don't lead with diva-ness, with all these types of things, because it's a reflection on them. It's a reflection on our program. It's a reflection on me. And the kids that I want to come out of this program are not necessarily the best performers, but good people who also just happen to be good performers as well.
That is so good. So what's something about middle school theater that people underestimate or they misunderstand?
I would say just their ability. The middle school world, sometimes when you get into high school, you get into this, you're so worried about image. Middle schoolers are worried about image, but they also don't care at the same time. They are willing to do the weird thing. They are willing to take that risk. They are willing to do all those weird audition warm up things you do in all these classes. Those kids are willing to make all the weird noises and jump on the floor and roll around and do all of that type of stuff. So I think putting them in a certain bubble of, this is a kid show, so we're going to do it that way. I would rather push them. Like, for instance, we did Radium Girls last year. Radium Girls is based off of a true story. It's a little advanced. Most high schoolers are doing that. And I want to push them. I want to challenge them, not meet them where they're at, but make them grow from where they are currently.
So you push them as actors. How does that flow over into the technical side of things?
I think as someone who also has a technical background too, we do classes where I have them work on technical elements. We have a stagecraft class. We have a technical theater class. Some of my intermediate classes, they build sets, costumes, props for shows we're doing. I think it's important also, even if you're not going to do a technical element, that you have an appreciation for that. You realize how many hours are put into that. They understand all the work that goes into that, because not every kid that comes into our department is going to be a performer on stage. They may be a backstage person. I joke all the time, if you want to make the money, you go backstage, don't be on stage, because a lot of that there is a large pool of performers, but as far as the technical side, everyone's always looking for a technical person, and it's sometimes easier to get a job that way, and just to be a well-rounded individual. And as a male, I didn't even get cast in a lead role till I was a sophomore in college, which most people are like, but you're a guy, you should get that. But the way I got my foot in the door was working all the technical backstage stuff. And the director saw my work ethic and the things I did backstage, and then said, I want to work with this person on stage because he put so much effort in backstage. So that's another, just sort of leading with your attitude and not with your skill.
I love it. I love it that you're instilling those values along with the work ethic. That's very, very cool. I love that. So shifting to where we are right now, Classen SAS, the internet gave me this little kind of an explanation. Classen SAS Middle School is part of Oklahoma City Public Schools' Visual and Performing Arts track, offering conservatory-style training in drama, dance, music, and more. The theater department emphasizes both classroom, curriculum, and production-based learning. Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I think I actually helped write that. I hope that's where it is.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go. So, what makes Classen Middle School drama program unique within Oklahoma's art landscape?
It's very interesting because Classen back in the day, it used to be 6 through 12 all in one building, which is a very rare thing to do now. They have actually expanded, so the high school is in one area and the middle school stayed here. The thing that's interesting about that is these kids, they have a major, they pick a major, they are dance, drama, arts, all these different electives. And you literally treat it like a college. You go in and you have all your core classes. You have to take your math, you have to take your science, you have to take all history. Can you remember all the electives or the core classes? And then they fill in your electives. So if you're a sixth grader, you take a beginning drama. If you're a seventh grader, you take intermediate drama. If you're eighth grade, you take advanced drama. You're filling in all your electives with the degree or the major, I guess, that you picked here, and you're sort of working the track because ideally you go from the middle school to the high school, and the high school track is sort of like a college prep, leading them to be ahead of a lot of college kids with the pieces they're reading, the performances they're watching, the different things you're doing through there. So I always say my kids want to be here versus have to be here. And in a classroom, that makes a world of difference, because if any elective teacher that has worked in a classroom where you're put in with a bunch of eighth grade boys that are all the basketball players that don't really want to be there, but their mom thinks they need to be in a choir class, versus the kids that have picked this elective and they want to be there, it just makes a world of difference for the teacher, for the environment, for what the kids are wanting to be a part of.
Oh, that's really cool. So, what does a typical day look like for you, balancing drama, the technical theater, musical theater, and production?
So we have a block schedule here. We have 90-minute class periods, which a lot of people think that seems like a long time, but in the drama world, it works a lot better. On on A days, I have a beginning drama class, which is always, it's like your gen ed course you take in college. So I've got 30 to 40 kids in that. They're all trying to learn theater. The first 9 weeks, we literally go over theater history. So we're talking about Greek, Roman, Renaissance, Kabuki, all the different time periods. They have to take notes with pencil and paper. It is the worst thing for them. They think they are being tortured by having to write with pencil and paper, but they learn a lot from that. And I think it's a core basic that you sort of need to learn, that theater has been the same since Greek times and not a lot of it has changed. There's been some advancements in technology, but it's an important part for them. I also teach intermediate. Intermediate is sort of a more deep dive. So I always say beginning is the more fluffy Peter Pan, all the feel good shows. And then the intermediate, we talked a little bit more about, like, currently we're reading a script called The Boys Next Door. I don't know if you've heard of it. So just teaching them more about empathy and other people's emotions and things like that. And then advanced, they move on, and we're doing a lot more deep dive into the performance side, what is preparing them for a high school curriculum, how are they going to work in that ecosystem. And then we've got musical theater, which is, we do a musical production every year. It is a mixture of drama majors, but I also have non-drama majors. I've got some IB, some piano. It is audition based, and I mean, it's a very rigorous, they bring a headshot, they bring a resume, we check their academics, because again, it's one of those, if you want to be in this, I want you to show that you want to be in this. So they have the academics, they have the interests, they're learning about Golden Age musicals, they're learning about 16 to 32 bar cuts, what it means to do all of that. So just preparing them for the outside world and the audition process. So when they ask these things, they're very familiar with it, and they look like the most informed person in the room.
That is really cool. Sorry if I get caught up in all this, because this is nothing like what theater was like when I grew up, and
Me
and all that.
either. If I would have had a school like this, I would have never wanted to leave either.
Yeah, this is crazy. So how do you balance classroom instruction with production work?
I think production work is a part of the classroom. I am very transparent with the kids about all the work it takes to put into a production, the dollar amounts. Even, I mean, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna throw this thing around." I'm like, "You just threw around a $200 object, you know?" So just getting them to understand the concept of money, getting them to have more involvement in their craft, because I've also found that I could do all of this myself. One, I'd burn out. I would be totally exhausted. I can put a lot of work into this, but I also want sort of their stake in the game too, and have them involved in these productions. And sometimes I go, "Hey guys, I have this problem. What do you think?" And they're like, "How about this?" I'm like, "Let's try it." So the middle school is a lot about making them think for themselves from this point on, or from this point before. They've been in elementary school, they've been with their parents. A lot of times their parents make the decisions, and to give them a little bit of free reign, not complete free reign, but like let them make a little bit of the decisions, have them work on the work, just sort of see all the process that goes into it. So when they're going to these national tours and they see that they're hundreds of dollars for tickets, this is why, because the amount of labor that goes into it, the amount of cost that goes into it, it's not just people trying to make money. They're trying to retain the money they put into a production, because there's so many dollars that go into that.
Absolutely. So that really kind of feeds into my next question is that your program emphasizes collaboration and inclusivity. How do you build that culture with students who are still in the process of discovering who they are?
I think part of that just sort of depends on, I hate this word, clientele, but the kids that come here. But in the most recent years, we've had lots of people that their parents are involved in the arts. So they're involved in allied arts, they're involved in film, they're involved in local productions. And I think having those types of influences on them that help in that sort of help them become more free thinkers and sort of individual thinkers. But they're not, the kids hate drama in some elements because it's not like math. Those kids that say 2 + 2 = 4, then you get into drama, and I ask them the age of Captain Hook, and they can't look it up in a book. They're like, "Well, I don't know." I'm like, "Well, you have to make an inferred reference based on all the things you've read, or on context clues. Is this person the same age as your parents? Are they older than your parents? How old are your parents?" Which is a whole different thing, because you learn they don't even know how old their parents are. They're like, "Oh, they're like 70." And like, your parents are not 70. They're maybe in their 40s. But it's just getting them to think for themselves and not live in this world of instant gratification. And let me ask Google.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a program where we can watch the kids' screens, and I've watched so many kids be like, "Google, how old is Captain Hook?" And I'm like, "It's not going to tell you, and even if it tells you, it may not be right. I need you to make a guess, make a logical guess based on your context clues." So,
Very interesting. Okay, so I've actually seen some, I believe, some photos of a little bit of this, but how does your script selection process look like?
we do a total of 7 different productions a year. Um, Basically, I am trying to give the kids all the types of opportunities they have throughout the year. Um, we do have some kids that are in academy programs or outside programs, but we want to make sure that there's opportunities, because we have about 20 kids per grade. So we're talking like 60, 70 drama majors total. And we do make it just like a college program, where if you're a music major, you have your scholarship requirements. We have requirements of, you need to be involved in a show in the fall, you need to be involved in a show in the spring. So looking for shows that involve upwards of 20 to 60 kids. And that's not saying all on stage. There could be backstage opportunities. So there's a lot of times where they work backstage, but they work on stage. But it's hard to find scripts, especially, we always do a straight play in the fall and a musical in the spring. A musical with 40 to 60 kids is an easy find. A play with 40 to 60 kids, you have to get real creative, or there's lots of ensemble roles that are walk-ons. But I when I first started, I worked with a lot of things that I was familiar with, things that I knew growing up, things that I thought were interesting. like, for instance, Radium Girls, or things that teach the kids history or empathy or just learning about something that they may not be as familiar with. I want them to learn about different cultures, different lifestyles, different time periods that inform them about how they got to where they are today. I mean, we're doing Mary Poppins currently right now, and most of them didn't know who Dick Van Dyke or Julie Andrews was. So it's, yeah. I mean, we went back and watched the movie version. We watched the musical version. I'm a big component for doing the research before you do the show. So a lot of times these kids do whatever they've done because they've seen it on YouTube somewhere. And I'm like, what are you saying when you say this? What do you mean when you do this? So trying to get them to understand who the character is, which sometimes is hard because, again, for instance, in Mary Poppins, they're doing a feuding married couple. They've never been married before. They don't understand this. But you have to, I've been doing this for about 10 years, and it's learning ways for them to connect to it. For instance, there's a scene in Mary Poppins we're doing where the kids are supposed to be like fangirling over Mrs. Corey in the park. And there's a YouTuber, I think his name is iShowSpeed, came to this Brahms right down the street. Had no idea who this person was. Still don't know who this is. I told those kids, I said, I want you to act like iShowSpeed is right there, just like when he was at Brahms. Immediately clicked in their head. So just being able to learn those cultural references that they connect with, but also realize that they can apply those to a lot of different ways.
Wow. Okay, that works. So, what's a recent moment in rehearsal or the classroom that reminded you why this matters?
Since we are doing Mary Poppins, and when I say Mary Poppins, we started music back in like November. So I picked a show that I have to live with for a year. So we are doing the junior version, not the full version. And a lot of times with the junior versions, they take out a lot more of the storytelling elements and those are the elements that the kids learn from. I've got two girls, one's a 6th grader and one's an 8th grader, playing Mrs. Banks, playing a woman in 1910. And today we're used to women speaking up for themselves, being an equal part of communities, and trying to explain to these kids that in this time period, it was inappropriate for a woman to speak over a man. You did not run the household. Your husband ran the household. You were basically something to sit there and look pretty at. But then there's an involvement in this character throughout the show of she's speaking for her husband. She's speaking up. She's has a voice for herself, talking to these girls, and just sort of, again, these are middle school girls who are dealing with all the middle school drama and things like that, of telling them to speak up for themselves, to be that type of person. I mean, I had the parents texting me saying, you brought tears to my kids' eyes. There we go. On the way home, because they were so empathetic towards this character that they're working with, and just getting that light bulb moment of it clicking with them and being like, this is why I do what I do. I joke with my kids all the time. I said, if I was here for the paycheck, I would have left a long time ago. So it's a passion, and just having those kids that are passionate about it and wanting to learn more, and seeing that moment when it just sort of clicks with them.
All right, cool. So, with the way this program works and the number of kids that you have coming through here, and talking about the number of productions that they do you ever worry about burnout?
Oh, absolutely. The crazy part about education is not a 9 to 5 where you leave your job and you go home. I mean, we even had 5 snow days recently, and it was working on Mary Poppins the entire time. So it's even hard to not take it home because it's just constantly on your brain and you're thinking about it. I think the biggest thing I've learned recently is, and I mean, this is anybody that has kids, is you have to take care of yourself first. It's sort of like the airplane, like put your air mask on before you help someone else. So I think it's just realizing the things that you do and have a passion for outside of it, because you can be so passionate about it, but you can burn out so quick. I think I read an article recently that said most teachers last 5 to 8 years in education. I'm at year 5. So just having that passion, that excitement for it, or even doing theater yourself outside of school. We have summers off. I usually do summer productions. So just sort of, I'm not in the director's seat. I get to be an actor or performer and just sort of watch the process and remember this is why I fell in love with this and this is why I do what I do, but not just spending every waking moment on it, even though it is very easy to do.
So that was actually my next question. We're going to shift over to you for a minute. Do you still find time to perform, or does teaching and directing kind of scratch that itch for you?
I mean, even auditioning, I like to audition sometimes too. I auditioned a local theater, auditioned, didn't get into anything, but I was like, great. I was like, I just want to be good with the process, because also I just want to be connected in the community, because this community is, I mean, it's a very small community in Oklahoma, even though there are lots of groups, but the local theater community helps education in so many ways. I mean, our last show, it was like the couch was from Jewel Box. This was from Lyric. Like, all of these companies are willing to work with us and do that type of thing. And it's a work connection, but it's also a personal connection. And it's fun to work with those people and enjoy that. And also just be around adults. I love teenagers, but like to be in adult conversation and not talk about someone's mad at someone and they don't want to look at this person because they said the wrong thing or looked at them the wrong way. That gets real old real fast. So being in adult conversation and having to have a more intellectually stimulating conversation sometimes is something that needs to be done.
So you're saying that it can be drama both on stage and off stage?
And I say it all the time. I would prefer to keep the drama on stage, but I love middle schoolers. But the smallest things are ground shaking for them.
Of course. Of course. So, do you have any upcoming performances that you're kind of eyeing right now?
I am looking at auditioning. Auditioning during the school year is always a tricky situation. I do summer things typically, but I am looking at an opportunity, and I'm not going to say what it is, but keep it a little bit secret, because I feel like it's a taboo thing to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
You talk about something and then like you're
gonna,
this and this and this, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's going to jinx it. Yeah. So, okay.
So, but just trying to, again, I tell my kids all the time to audition and do shows to strengthen your craft. And I sort of want to practice what I preach and be involved in things and learn more on stage, backstage, all those types of things, because I learned something from all different people.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite production that you've done in community theater?
Last summer, I got to work on Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I am a musical theater person for the most part. I am not a straight play person. I was approached to do this. I told them no originally, and then I went and did it. And I mean, everyone knows Tennessee Williams. The name is very familiar. The name Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, but I had never seen Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I didn't know anything about Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. But that group of people was very interesting, but also just reading literature that was popular. Like, it's still prevalent today. And now, granted, some of the things they did in there, I did props for it, and they said, we want a fully lit cake with candles and flames. And I went to the production managers, and I was like, I'm just making sure, but we can't have actual flames on stage. And they were like, no. And I'm like, I figured. But the things that they got away with, and just sort of seeing how that literature translates and is still prevalent and connects with people today, and also is a very hard piece. My kids were like, can we do Cat on a Hot Tin Roof Junior? And I was like, I don't think that's a thing, but I don't know if I want to do that either.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Tennessee Williams wrote for kids, but
I love that they're interested in those types of pieces. Absolutely. And they're open to hearing all those things. Again, it's that idea of exposing them to pieces that you wouldn't typically think kids would be interested in, but then they get so enthralled in it.
Yeah. So, any dream projects that you'd love to tackle someday, either here or you as an actor?
I mean, I've got a long list of musicals. My all-time favorite musical since I was younger, and it's so funny because everyone tells me, they're like, "That's an old musical," is Hello Dolly. I love Hello Dolly. When I was in high school, we had to pick monologues. I always picked monologues from Hello Dolly. When we had to do costume designs, I picked Hello Dolly. So much so that my director said, "You cannot pick Hello Dolly for this set design." I said, "Okay, great." And she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "The Matchmaker." She was like, "You kidding me? You picked the play that was based off of the musical?" I was like, "Yep." I love that story. I love the Barbara Streisand's movie version. I've watched it so many times that I can quote half of the monologues. I mean, they were showing it in theaters one time, and I went there, and I'm pretty sure I was the only one under the age of like 70 that was in a theater. But I just love that movie, and it's just a classic. And I love the classic musicals.
I'm a classics. I'm a sucker for classics anyway, both plays and musicals, and I love when the next generation shows an interest in those classics, that it's resurging and stuff. So
We did in middle school, when I was in band in middle school, and anytime we didn't play, we would like watch a movie in class, which was like the cool thing, you get to watch a movie. And he'd always want us to watch musicals, and we'd watch like Fiddler on the Roof and West Side Story and things like that. But what was so funny is every time we do it, he'd show it in class, and it was my version that I brought from my house. He didn't have the copy of it, so I'd be like, "Oh, I'll bring mine from home," because I just watched all of those and just enjoyed all of those. And they're 3 hours long or 2 hours long, but they don't seem like it because you're just so into the story and you just enjoy the whole element of the show.
well, that's really cool. So looking ahead to this program, what's on the horizon for Classen SAS?
I mean, coming up in the next month, I've said it 2 or 3 times already.
Wait. Are you doing a show coming out?
Yes.
Okay.
We were testing sound right before this, and I joke. I was like, I feel like when I'm promoting a show, it's my whole personality for until it closes. Talk to anyone. I mean, I went and bought furniture yesterday on Marketplace from someone, and I was like, "It's for Mary Poppins at Classen SAS Middle School, February 26th, 27th." I just like went my spiel, and my sister looked at me like, "You totally." It's a genetic thing. I think we can just talk to anybody, and I can talk to the person checking out for groceries and tell them anything about our story. But yes, we are doing Mary Poppins February 26th, 27th, and 28th. So that is our big production. Our auditorium, as you see, is brand new, renovated. So it's one of our first big productions in this space. We're excited for that. Lots of learning curves, of course, with learning a new light board, a new soundboard, but and doing good costumes and sets and everything.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, which amazingly, I have kids that are interested in that type of stuff, which sounds crazy to let a 12-year-old run a soundboard, but they have to learn it at some point. And you sort of, after a little bit, you work with your kids long enough that you're like, you're the type of kid that can run the soundboard, and this group of kids, I mean, I never have done this, but I could probably leave the building and go do something else, and I know that they're going to do exactly what they're supposed to do. We had a day where the power went out at the school, and my kids were reading a script and then said, "Mr. Brent, I know it's a state law not to have our cell phones out, but can we have our cell phones out to use as lights so we continue reading the script?" And I was like, "Guys, it's not that important. I'm so glad you're so passionate about that." But that's just the type of kids, when they get bored or they have downtime, they're like, "Can we run our choreography on stage?" I'm like, "Sure, you want to go do that?" Like,
Well,
they are just taking the time to invest in themselves. And I mean, that just makes my job that much easier.
wow, that is really, really cool. So if you could dream big, what would you love to add or expand in the next few years? I mean, you have a brand new auditorium here, so
I mean, I would love not to do all of it. Like I was telling you, I have an interior design background. I do not have a stagecraft background. We did have a stagecraft teacher at one point. Of course, Oklahoma education, budget cuts, all those types of things. We cut a position a couple years ago. And in my mind, I thought, okay, if we cut this position, we may lose these courses. So I absorbed these courses. I would love to give those away again so I could be able to focus on the production side, but also the acting side, and have someone that is a little bit more technically minded in the building side of it. Because, I mean, we've got a full scene shop with tools, with saws, and I'm not fully capable of doing all those things, and I don't want to hand over a chalk saw to a kid and have them do all these things. So have someone that sort of focuses on that so we can just expand even more. But it's hard to find a technical director for a middle school that also wants to work with kids. There's lots of technical directors in Oklahoma that want to work with 12, 13-year-olds and try to work with saws and things like that, or even paint. I mean, my floor in there looks like a Jackson Pollock because the kids can't seem to figure out how to keep paint in the can. So even the advanced kids in an advanced school.
Well, I've met some adults that can't do that either. So, what do you hope that your students carry with them long after they leave your classroom?
I mean, we talked about it earlier about kids leading as good people first and then good performers. Some of these kids will never go on to performing. This may just be something that they're passionate about now, and then their life may lead them in a whole different direction. There are so many life skills in theater that can apply to every sort of field. The public speaking, but I think the biggest thing for me is just a care for other people and living in this world of like empathy for other people and being aware of other people's surroundings and not judging them based on what they just know about them, but there may be something completely different that's going on with them that they don't even know about. So just having a more open-minded mindset in the workforce, in their professional life, whatever it may be, but just be aware of the people around them.
I love that. So we're kind of coming to the end of our interview, and I like to end things on kind of a light note, have a little bit of fun. And so I have what we call our curtain call curveballs.
Okay.
So these are off the wall questions, may or may not have anything to do with theater. Just answer the first thing that pops into your head.
Sounds good.
Okay. So what is one musical that you never get tired of? That was kind of really a silly question.
We talked about it. Hello, Dolly is one. I mean, that's probably my all-time favorite. The kids joke with me. My least favorite, and they can't believe I say this, is Hamilton. I think it's partly because the kids just anything a kid. I mean, if you've had kids, know anything about kids, they will play something to its just exhaustion. And so I think it was the thing of that was the hot show. I'm not a big whatever's the hot show. That's not usually the show I'm for. So yeah, the kids were always like, "Don't tell Mr. Brink you like Hamilton because he dislikes it so much." And I'm like, I appreciate what it brought to theater, but it's just not my cup of tea.
I'm right there with you, and I'm in a minority in my circles as well. So, so a show you think every young actor should experience? Not Hello, Dolly.
Not Hello, Dolly. I know. Let's see what I'm not able to. And recently, we've been reading this in our intermediate class. I was talking about this earlier. The Boys Next Door. I think it's just a great show. Some of it did not age well. I mean, that's with a lot of theater things, but it's seen a different perspective. It's seen through other people's eyes. The kids still quote it. I've got kids in high school that quote lines from that show and just love that show. But it's one that just sort of they get to see something that's not a fairy tale show. It's real life. It's things that have happened to real people. So
okay, all right. If theater were gone tomorrow, what would you choose to do and why?
When I was younger, I always said I wanted to be in a boy band. So I don't know if I have the dance ability for that. My children will tell you that too. That we always bring a choreographer because I can do a touch step real well, but I don't know about anything else. Yeah, I mean, anything artistic, creative, building. I've always enjoyed props. So something along just like production of creating things out of nothing. I love those challenges of like, we need to make this, but we don't have this actual object, or we need to make it for cheaper. So that creation element or a boy band member.
Okay. All right. So, what do you think is the most underrated skill in theater?
Honestly, lighting design and sound design. Um, Everyone knows when a mic is working, but they don't realize how much work it is to get it to fix. And I will say those are probably my two weakest areas. And it's interesting because teaching those types of things to kids is hard, but it takes a lot of skill to make sure everyone's mics are turned on at the right time. Make sure, I mean, I'm so unskilled that sometimes we sent some kids out one time and I was like, the mics aren't working. No one put batteries in the mics. So just there's a lot of moving elements to mic work and light work, even the programming of lights or installing the lights or troubleshooting, especially if you're working with either LEDs, that's even another element. So I think those two elements, because I think a lot of educators start out as performers and then they move over to directing, and the costumes and the set design can come a little easier, but lighting and sound, I think, are two of the hardest things to work on.
That's fair. That is fair. So, what's a food you will never turn down, no matter what time of day it is?
I mean, carbs in general, but pasta. Yeah, you'd think I was part Italian, the amount of pasta I would eat, but I will go anywhere for any sort of pasta, chicken parmesan, spaghetti, fettuccine. I mean, it's pasta is pasta. That's so good.
Okay. What's a role that you would say yes to in an instant?
Um, we've been talking about Hello Dolly. Cornelius Hackle is one of my all-time favorite roles. I'm worried I'm getting a little bit too old for that age because I think he's supposed to be 28 3/4. I'm a little over at 28, but hopefully with some stage makeup we can make it look a little younger. But
Might have to shave, but
yeah, my beard came from being in a show. I had to grow a beard for a show. And I'd never grown a beard before. I was one of those that shaved every single day. And then we had to be in I was in Joseph, but I've also been in Fiddler. I've had to grow my beard out for that. And I was like, it's so much easier not to have to shave every day. It's great.
Yeah,
Makes life a lot easier.
it does. Okay. If you had to swap lives with a fictional character for 1 week, who are you choosing?
Fictional character for 1 week. Trying to think fictional. I mean, just thinking of all the things I work with the kids, I think Peter Pan would be fun. I mean, you never have to grow up. You sort of they have no worries. I joke with my dog all the time, which I know dogs can't talk, but I'm like, this is the life. You get to lay around all day. Someone brings you food. You don't do anything.
Right.
It just all shows up for you. So living in that carefree world where you're not worrying about all the adult things. I tell my kids all the time, like, do all the things while you can when you're younger, because you think, oh, when I'm an adult, I'm going to do this and this and this. But then you're like, the cost it takes, the time it takes, you have so many other things to do. So I'm like, do it while you can, because you're going to regret not doing that later in life.
Yeah.
Peter Pan syndrome.
Yeah, we worry about a lot of things, and it's best when the kids don't. So
Yeah.
Okay, you have a free round trip ticket to anywhere in the world, but you have to leave tomorrow. Where are you going?
I've never left the country. I've only been in Canada. Well, Canada, but I've always said I want to go to Paris, to go to Europe, all those places. People that have been to Paris say don't go to Paris, go to other places. But I think I just want to go there to see the artwork, the architecture. With my interior design background, I think some of the most beautiful architecture and artwork when you go out of the U.S. is just, you go there and then you come back and you're like, they're not as impressive. It's like the artwork and architecture of Europe is just gorgeous, and I love all of that.
Yeah. I think the Industrial Revolution hit us, and we've never changed. So,
I mean, I had to write like a 15-page paper over architecture in Europe in college, and I love the Palace of Versailles. I would love to go to Palace of Versailles and just see all the detail and just nerd out over all of that.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So, Brent, as we close this thing up, do you have any parting words of wisdom for Anybody listening out there? Maybe a young person thinking about theater or...
I mean, try it, audition, do the thing. And the one thing I would always say is, because I tell my kids this all the time too, just because you didn't get a part doesn't mean you didn't do the right thing. So auditioning is the first step, and then it may not be the first time you audition, but it may be the second, third, fourth. Try it, do it. You may get in, you may not, but you may learn something along the way.
I think that's great. That's good advice. So thank you, Brent, for being a part of this.
Yeah, of course.
I've enjoyed this. For everybody else listening at home, thank you for joining us. Thank you for carving out a little bit of time in your day, whether you're listening to us in the car or at home or at work. Thank you for your time. You're very important to the community that we have, and your presence listening really kind of helps us with that as well. So thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for listening. And no matter what you do, continue to support the arts.